Salem's Lot follows troubled author Ben Mears, who returns to his hometown of Jerusalem's Lot, Maine, and discovers the presence of a bloodthirsty vampire. So this film was directed by Tobe Hooper, and it stars David Soul, James Mason, Bonnie Bedelia, Lou Ayres, Lance Kerwin, and Ed Flanders. So a couple of months ago, we got Gary Dauberman's adaptation of Salem's Lot, which I absolutely loved. I've seen it twice now and really enjoyed it both times, and I'm going to be watching it many more times in the future. It's a really solid, awesome vampire flick. But 45 years ago, we got Tobe Hooper's adaptation of Stephen King's classic novel, and this one, in my opinion, is top 5 greatest vampire films of all time. I think that this film is outstanding. So in 1979, this film was aired as a miniseries in 2 90-minute parts, and it has since been released as a full 3-hour-long feature-length film. And if you're a vampire fan and you haven't seen this adaptation of Salem's Lot, go and do that right now. I'm going to be talking spoilers in this video, so you've been warned, but I just want to say right now, if you have not seen Tobe Hooper's adaptation of Salem's Lot, check it out because it is phenomenal. It's got a cult following for a reason, and I'm so glad that more people are being reintroduced to it through this new 2024 adaptation. And now getting into the positives of Salem's Lot. The reason that you should watch the film, if I had to pick one reason why you should watch Salem's Lot, it is because of James Mason's incredible performance as Richard Straker. His performance is so good in this film that if there was nothing else of value of the 3-hour runtime of this film, it would still be worth watching just for him. Because he is unbelievably good here. He is charming, he's menacing, he's sick, he's twisted, he's creepy, but he's also really funny and oddly alluring, especially with the way his dialogue's written and the way that he delivers it. With such a posh accent, you think of him as just such a kind of old man who's just a bit of a stuck-up prick, but then you see this sinister side just burst out of him, and it is really creepy and really awesome, and it's just, he's so good here. This is one of my favourite performances of all time, and I am not exaggerating whatsoever. He is so fucking good in this film. Another one of the best parts about this film is the pacing. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This film is very slow, and it is very long. It's 3 hours and 4 minutes, and as I said, it is a slow burn. But to me, that makes the horror all the more effective, because you get to know every nook and cranny of this small town. You know all its people, you know the streets, you know the buildings, you know the layout. You basically know it like the back of your hand. So when you see its residents mysteriously disappear and the town slowly become quieter and quieter until it's just a ghost town, basically, it's really creepy. It gets under your skin, and it's all because of that pacing that it just allows the dread to seep through the screen and just build and build and build throughout the film. As we all know, Tobe Hooper is an insanely good director, and his work is on full display here. He shoots the Marston house in such a clever way so that no matter where you are in the town, it's always visible, just perched up on this hill, like just a evil presence overlooking the town. And another thing that he does so well is the way he crafts all of his scares. In particular, I want to talk about the window scene when Ralphie Glick comes and scratches at his brother's window and asks him to let him in. And it is so impressive. The effects still hold up today. Instead of having the actor attached to strings, they actually have him attached to a boom mic, where basically or boom crane, I think is what it's called. So basically he's just being moved around and you don't see any strings in sight or anything. And he decided to film the footage in reverse. So you have him start off in this bedroom, and then they moved him around a bit and looked like he was floating, and then lifted him out and got him to scratch around the window and then pulled him back. And it just creates such a unsettling effect. Like, it just feels so weird and off, and it's such a creative scene because you never see anything like that nowadays. That's so different. He thinks so outside of the box to allow his film to have such a distinct look. It's just mind-blowing to me how creative Tobe Hooper is as a director. And another scene that I want to mention that I really love is the climactic scene in the basement of the Marston house. There's a really incredible good use of lighting here. That kind of reminds me of Psycho, when you go down and the light flickers across Mrs. Bates' face. When Ben's about to stake Barlow, his hands come up and hit the light. And the light starts swinging around the basement. And then Mark is over by the door where I believe it's the root cellar, or like just the cellar of the basement is. And that's where all the vampires are hiding. And the door's open because that's where Barlow's coffin was. And the light swings, and each time it swings and goes past the root cellar, you can see the glow of the vampire eyes, and they start slowly crawling towards Mark. And it's just the way that light swings. It goes backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, and each time it just comes forward, you see the eyes of the vampires getting closer. And it is so well done. It's really creative, really impressive shit. The score by Harry Suckman is really memorable and really creepy. Now, it's not the kind of thing that you're probably going to go and listen to, but especially in the window scene, like when Ralph Glick comes through the window, it's so bizarre. It almost sounds kind of reversed, a bit like the way the footage is. I don't know whether it is or not, but it's just so off and distinct and memorable, and it fits perfectly. I really love the way Kurt Barlow is utilised here. Now, he is our head vampire. He is the main antagonist of this film, and he has 90 seconds of screen time. And he's so memorable. He's one of the most iconic vampires of all time. Even if you haven't seen the film, I'm sure that you would have seen Kurt Barlow from this film, because the makeup effects on actor Reggie Nalder kind of harken back to Nosferatu, the silent film, while still being very much its own thing. And he's so sparingly used, but every time he comes on screen, it is so effective, so creepy. He looks so weird. I love him in this film. Now, he is different from the way he looks in the book, but it doesn't bother me at all, because it's a creative choice that Tobe Hooper decided to make, and he ran with it, and he made it work really well. And yeah, one of my favourite vampire designs ever. Maybe my favourite vampire design of all time. I love him in this film. Every character in this film feels like a real person. They all feel different and distinct, and they're all memorable. And that's something that the first half of this film does so well, is that you get introduced to Ben and Eva and Susan and Cully and Mike and Matt, and it's just, or Jason, I believe is his name in this film. They changed Matt from Matt Burke to Jason Burke. But you know them all. They all have their own distinct traits and qualities. And when they either go missing or turn, it's quite horrific, because there's none of that humanity left that you were introduced to in the opening act of this film. I love the way this film bookends itself. You have, at the start of this film, a man and a boy running from something. You don't know what they're running from, but they're in Guatemala and they're just on the run for their lives. And then you learn at the end that they're on the run from the remaining vampires of Salem's Lot after they've destroyed Barlow. And you have the final scene when he has to kill Susan, which is pretty horrific. And then the way it just wraps up, where they're basically just like, more will come. We have to keep moving. And you know that these two characters, the only two surviving characters, are never going to live a happy day where they aren't looking over their shoulder again in their lives. It's satisfying. It's not massive or explosive or anything, but it just feels right. It just ties it all up in a perfect little bow. Now, the only thing that I would actually hold against this film is the fact that its cheapness and the kind of cheese of the 1970s TV sometimes seeps through. Like, you can tell when every ad break is, and it often happens with like a freeze frame and a zoom in on something and then cuts to black, and it's just like, it hasn't aged all that well in that regard. And there's another part where for like a second or so you can actually see the shadow of the cameraman. It's just like, oh god, come on guys. But it's all charming for me. It's all part of the experience. It feels like something from that time. I don't know. It doesn't bother me at all, but some people will watch this and notice a few aspects of it that are pretty dated. So overall, I love Tobe Hooper's Salem's Lot. I absolutely adore just about everything about this film. Even the negative stuff that I mentioned, I still find quite charming and endearing. Salem's Lot is a film that is absolutely worth watching, worth buying, and overall is top notch. Thank you very much for watching my review of Tobe Hooper's adaptation of Salem's Lot. Let me know if you have seen this film in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.